This is my second set of questions regarding Plato's allegory of the cave. The first question I have is, what message do you believe Plato is trying to give? Is it simply identifying the difference between appearances and reality? So, what they see is what they get, and what the freed prisoners saw is, what's in reality. So, is there enough there to explain the difference between what we see and what is really there? So I know my other questions kind of asked you, why is this not okay, and if one's better than the other, why is it so hard? But this is so my question now is solely focusing on, you know um, is there a difference, because they say things are not always as they appear. But why is that? Does it take someone to see something different, or does it just take, enough deep and critical thinking to arrive at the conclusion that those are separate things? Because obviously, in the cave, those people would agree that appearances are is their reality. Like, this is what I can see. This is what it is. So let me know what you think about that. And my second question is, what symbols are present in the allegory? What does each symbol represent? So examples can include the cave, the fire, the figures. What are these supposed to represent, and what do you think Plato meant, or what do you conceive them to be? When you hear of these things, what pops in your head and goes, "This is kind of like that." So I'm sure we'll all come up with different answers for that because we don't all have the same brain or same experiences. So that might be a good discussion. And my last question is a little bit more in depth. So this one includes my outside source, so I hope you guys enjoy it down below. It was a little bit weird to find one that necessarily wasn't all about the reading because we all read it. We don't want to hear it another time. You want to hear a little bit more background or analysis. So my last question for this set is, if the story is a representation of education and the effects of learning and knowledge on a human, what is the aim of education? So, is it simply to provide the information to us, or to use the information to guide our hearts in the right direction? So, is it simply, is learning take this and learn from it, or read this and find where you want to go, or read this and contemplate life as it is, or any notion at all? Um, so, an outside source brought in an explanation that the word liberal is derived from the Latin fiber, meaning free. So, what drew me to this is, if we're going on this educational basis, what is there a right education? Is there a difference between the education that the robots in this story were providing to these prisoners, and the one that the escaped individual found for himself? So, going off of the word free, a liberal education, so a free education, is one that benefits a free person. And the article goes on to explain, it frees us from our inherited ignorance and acquired falsehoods. So there are definitely ignorance and falsehoods in the presence of the allegory. And the article explains that this education allows us to see real things and what truly exists. And Plato would often call these things the things that are. So these are the things worth knowing. So, of course, there are things and element to the people in the cave, but the real things, the free things, this education that we're provided, this liberal education, and I know that that word sometimes has a negative connotation. People would say, "Oh, you're such a liberal, you voted for so and so," but really it just means to be free, and especially in this content. So, if these are the things worth knowing, what makes them worth knowing? And if they're worth knowing, why is education worth knowing? And is that why we're in school every day? And is that why we're encouraged to get an education? Because it will kind of open up this third eye or critical thinking in our heads. So, as the aim for Plato was to analyze the presence and lack of education on people, what do you think that education is meant to do? And I'll be excited to see what you guys have to say about that. And I'll be posting my third set very soon.